How's it going, guys? Welcome back here to race number 6 of the season at Sandusky Speedway. Got the car all unloaded. Got a couple things we got to get wrapped up on it. Kind of was another week where we were busting our ass to get things done on the car. Dad absolutely killed it this week. We built a new motor in 3 days. Really hoping that this is going to run comparable to what we had a couple weeks ago before we blew it up. Seems to be running pretty strong before we get on the track, but who knows until we actually get out there and get some laps on it. Well, we're all done with qualifying. Unfortunately, seems to be more gremlins that we're fighting with the car again this week. Right now we got a bad exhaust leak that we can't get fixed. It's kind of leaking out of a V-band. So we're going to try to do the best we can. Right now we're only about a half a second off of what we've been running. Motor seems to be running halfway decent, but with that leak, obviously we're losing a little bit of horsepower. I think we qualified 7th out of the 11 cars that are here. So that's probably going to put us in Heat 2 for tonight. So we'll see what we can come up with and try to scavenge up at least a halfway decent points night tonight and work on the car some more and see what we can get done.
Car's running good.
Morning, guys. Got a pretty hectic last night after the heat race. Didn't get a chance to jump on, and then got pretty late after the feature as well. I didn't get home until about 1 o'clock in the morning after getting everything loaded up. So in the heat race, we started towards the back. Made a couple changes on the car to try to get it to run a little bit better. We were able to get some speed out of it and pick up the heat win. So pretty happy about that. In the feature, again, we started in the back, ended up making our way through the field pretty decent. Battled up for 4th, 5th, and 6th most of the race, and at the end we came home 5th. So, all in all, definitely a decent night for us. We're actually back in action today out at the track for a non-points night. We're actually up here at Mags, who is one of our sponsors, doing a little bit of work to the car today. As I'd mentioned, we got an exhaust leak going on, so we've got it up here on the lift trying to see if we can get that figured out. Had a V-band clamp kind of loosen up on us a little bit, so we're going to see if we can stretch that back out and get it fixed. And like I said, we'll be racing today, non-points, but still looking to have a good show. So we'll chat with you guys later. Alright, so we're all done with Hotlaps here. Car's running pretty decent. Track is really hot. We got the modifieds here with us today, so they're putting down a lot of rubber on the track. So it's not helping matters for us. But right now we're at top of the board out of the cars that are here today, which definitely feels good. Hopefully we're going to have a good run all night long and get a good finish in the heats, and then get a good nice payday in the feature. So we'll get back with you guys after qualifying.
get put down a lap by Kyle Ramsey with second and third quickly closing on them. Martin closing up even more. One more lap to close up the Morrison. Let's give a big hand for Kyle Ramsey as he begins his victory lap here tonight. Truly in a league of his own during that race. Ramsey turning the car around so that he can get a little bit closer to the grandstands. Looks like he might run a Polish victory lap made famous by Alan Kowicki. And he's not. Ramsey's just going to toil down the front stretch, turn around down in turn 4, so we can get things banging with our modifieds here this evening. Once again, let's give a big hand to Kyle Ramsey for a dominant heat race win.
Alrighty, so we're all done with heat racing here. Just getting ready to line up for the feature tonight. Looks like there's still just the 5 cars for the feature. Went out for the heat race, was able to charge to the front, walk away with another win for the weekend, which definitely feels really good. Well, as you can see here, we forgot to do our outro again. And also we had an issue with the footage for the feature. In the feature, we were looking to have a real solid run, which we did. We ended up coming home second in the feature. Somebody showed up literally as we were staging, and he unloaded very quick. Jason ended up coming out. Me and him battled for a couple laps up front, and then he was able to set sail and pick up the win. But second place, still very happy about that. Very solid with being non-points night. Still a great payday for us to put some money in the account after having to build a couple motors. So we are off for 2 weeks. I think it is July 24th we're back, which is another Friday race at Sandusky for the High Mile Nationals. Very excited for this race. For our class to be included in the High Mile Nationals is always great, but to be there Friday with the super modifieds and modifieds, it's going to be a great show. And I think it's also going to be streamed, so we're going to try to find the information for that and share that out with everybody on our Facebook page. This weekend, running 2 races, very happy with how the car ran in both. We got a couple things we want to try to work on here over the next couple weeks, but everything's straight, nothing's broke, which is definitely great. So we kind of relax a little bit, but we'll end up getting the car in here sometime next week, get it up on jack stands and go through it like we always do. So again, appreciate everybody clicking on the video, watching, liking, subscribing, all that stuff. Following us along here as we document how everything goes with our season. And we'll catch you guys next time.